All right, we're diving into something pretty wild today. We're looking at the final few chapters of an ancient text, the Book of Judges. And trust me, what we're about to uncover is this brilliant, sharp critique of leadership that feels like it could have been written yesterday.
So our whole story really kicks off with this one little phrase. Now this line shows up 4 times, but only at the very, very end of the book. And at first glance, you might think, okay, that's just a historical detail. But when something gets repeated like that, it's like a giant blinking sign. It's a huge clue that there's something much, much deeper going on here.
So, why is this phrase such a big deal? Well, because it's not just saying, hey, they didn't have a king. No, it's a diagnosis. It's a diagnosis of a society that is completely spun out of control. We're talking idolatry, theft, murder, even genocide. And the craziest part? Everyone involved, every single person, thinks they're the good guy. They think they're doing the right thing. So how on earth does a society get to that point? Let's break it down.
Okay, so the text basically gives us 5 case studies, 5 examples of completely flawed leaders that show us how this whole collapse happens. And each one represents a kind of authority figure that, we still look to today. And they tap into these deep desires we all have, right? We want approval, we want legitimacy, love, success, happiness, the whole thing. We're going to tackle them one by one, so let's get started with the first 2.
All right, first up, we have the father and the priest. And these 2 are all about the failure of personal faith and institutional religion. It's a perfect example of just how fast things can go off the rails when spiritual leaders are chasing the wrong things.
So first, let's meet Micah, our father figure. And this story is just wild. It starts with him stealing a massive amount of silver from his own mom. So she finds out the money's gone, she curses whoever took it, and Micah gets terrified and fesses up. But here's where it gets weird. Instead of any kind of consequence, she flips a switch, blesses him, and decides to dedicate the stolen money to God by making an idol. I mean, what?
There's actually a term for this. Psychologists call it an enmeshed relationship. It's where the boundaries between people are so blurry you can't tell where one person ends and the other begins. So this mother and son, they're using all this religious language. Oh, God bless you, I dedicate this to the Lord. But it's all just a way to avoid the actual problem. They're papering over a huge conflict. Micah has literally broken commandments, but none of that matters. All that matters is keeping his mom happy, getting her approval, and now he's starting to mix that up with God's approval. It's a mess.
Okay, so into this completely dysfunctional household wanders this guy, Jonathan. And Jonathan is a Levite, which means he's from the priestly line. And get this, he's the grandson of Moses. I mean, you can't get better credentials than that. So Micah sees him and immediately hires him on the spot. He's thinking, yes, now I know God will bless me. He's finally got a stamp of legitimacy for his weird little DIY religion.
The problem is, Jonathan has 0 integrity. He's a priest for hire. So when this violent tribe comes along and offers him a better salary, he just packs up Micah's idols and leaves with them. And this quote from The Godfather, it's the perfect analogy. You know that scene where Michael Corleone is at the baptism renouncing Satan, while at the exact same time his men are carrying out a bunch of assassinations? That's Jonathan. His presence, his title, it gives this holy seal of approval to what this tribe is doing. And what they're doing is horrific. They go and wipe out a completely peaceful town. He's basically providing religious cover, legitimacy for pure lawlessness.
So you can see how things are starting to build, right? One bad leader enables another. But our next guy, he's a completely different type. He is not some spineless, weak-willed guy like Jonathan. Oh no, this guy is the absolute picture of confidence. He is the man.
And you know the type I'm talking about. The source even compares him to that Old Spice guy from the commercials, I'm on a horse. He's just absurdly confident, cool, totally in control. He makes these big, decisive choices, and for some reason, everyone just goes along with it. In the story, he chases after his runaway concubine, he completely charms her dad, he bosses a servant around, he is calling all the shots, 100%. Here's the catch, though. His decisions? They're awful. I mean, truly terrible. He starts a long trip right as the sun is setting, and then decides to stay the night in literally the most dangerous town in the area. But people still follow him. So why? Why do we do this? Well, the Nobel Prize winner Daniel Kahneman has a name for this. It's a cognitive bias, where we instinctively mix up confidence with competence. We see someone who looks like a leader, and we just assume they are a good leader. We value the perception over the actual performance. It's like Kahneman says, what we see is all there is. And this is where it gets really dark. Here's the key takeaway. When you have a leader who is charismatic and loved but has no moral compass, no sense of justice, it always leads to exploitation. That leader will use their charisma to protect themselves, and they'll sacrifice anyone who gets in their way, especially the most vulnerable. And that is exactly what is about to happen.
So a mob surrounds the house where he's staying, and what does he do? He throws his concubine outside to them. Just throws her to the mob. The next morning, he finds her dead on the doorstep. And what he does next is it's pure psychopathy. With absolutely zero emotion, he takes her body, cuts it into 12 pieces, and sends the pieces to all the tribes of Israel. It's a gruesome, horrific call to war. He's using her brutal murder to manipulate the entire nation into doing what he wants.
And it works. The whole nation is justifiably outraged. And this is where the failure just scales up massively. We go from one awful, charismatic man to a full-blown national crisis. And this brings us to our last two flawed leaders, the general and the uncles.
So all of Israel unites as one. They're going to punish the tribe of Benjamin where the atrocity happened. And just look at these numbers, it's completely staggering. We're talking 400,000 soldiers against just 26,700. I mean, the odds are absolutely overwhelming. And on paper, everything looks right. They have a just cause, they have the numbers, they even go and get God's permission to attack. What could go wrong?
Well, here's what goes wrong. We see the total flip side of our last leader. If love without justice is just exploitation, then justice without love, that's just vengeance. This war stops being about protecting the innocent almost immediately. It becomes about national pride, about revenge. And they don't just punish the guilty people. They go on a rampage. They commit genocide against their own brother tribe, wiping out men, women, children, even the animals. It's pure, unchecked vengeance.
So after this brutal civil war, only 600 men from the entire tribe of Benjamin are left alive. The whole tribe is about to be wiped off the map. And this is when our final leaders step in, the elders, or as the source calls them, the uncles. And you know these guys. They're the people pleasers, the managers, the fixers who are absolute masters at making everyone feel good and making it seem like the problem is solved, all while taking zero personal responsibility.
And their reaction is, well, the source compares it to the internet comedian Uncle Roger's catchphrase. They look at this massive devastation that they caused, and they basically throw their hands up and go, "Hiya! Why has this happened to Israel?" As if it was some natural disaster. They blame God, they blame the circumstances, they blame literally everyone and everything except themselves.
And their solution is just a masterclass in moral gymnastics. So first, they remember they made this big dramatic oath that they wouldn't let their own daughters marry any of the survivors from Benjamin. Okay, so what do? They find a town that didn't show up for the war, and they go and slaughter everyone in it except for 400 young women, who they then give to the Benjaminites. But they're still 200 women short. So their next brilliant idea is to tell the remaining Benjaminite men to go hide in some vineyards during a religious festival and just kidnap 200 girls as they dance by. It is a completely horrifying plan, and it's all engineered so that technically no one broke their original silly oath. Everybody's hands look clean, right?
And this brings us right back to that phrase from the beginning. In a world with leaders like these, in a world where everyone is just doing whatever they think is right, who is actually left hoping for a true and just king to show up and fix things?
Because here is the truly chilling part of the story, the way the book ends. After all of this violence, this injustice, this chaos, the text just says that everyone went home. That's it. The perpetrators, the compromisers, the people-pleasers who engineered this whole disaster, they all just go back to their lives, back to their inheritance, as if nothing ever happened. They're fine. They're happy.
So that brings us to the final, central question of this whole thing. If you live in a society where the powerful and the privileged can get away with literally anything and still go home happy, who's left to even want a righteous ruler? Who actually longs for real justice?
And the answer the text gives us is, it's really profound. It's not the people in charge. It's not the majority who are doing just fine. The only people left who truly desperately want a just king are the victims. The concubine who was sacrificed for one man's convenience, the young women from Jabesh-Gilead whose families were slaughtered, the girls who were kidnapped from a festival at Shiloh. It's the forgotten ones, the oppressed, the people who never got to just go home happy.
And the source concludes with this idea that the people God is actually proud of, the people he's impressed by, are those who, even though they got the short end of the stick, even though they were let down by every leader, they still look forward to his just rule. And of those people, God looks at them and says, Fuyo,
which, if you know, means something like, wow, that's impressive. A surprising and really powerful thought to end on.